Hi guys, welcome to today's video. Today I'm going to talk about what my favourite setup is that I currently use in 2023, and I'm going to explain why I use that setup, and I'm going to show you some of the example photos I can get from that setup too, so give you a bit more idea of what you can achieve with what I have, and we'll go from there. So first of all, let's have a look at the setup itself. It's here. This is a 1DX Mark II. On the back is the camera side. This is attached to a 500mm f4. This is the Mark I version of this lens. And then I also have a Manfrotto monopod on here. This is actually a video monopod, but using it for camera stuff like that. And then I've got a Wembley gimbal on here. So if we open up the monopod itself, pop that down here, undo this part here, and then here we are. On here it's not balanced properly at the moment, so if we balance that back out, there we go, and that's now balanced on the gimbal itself there. So this is what I'm currently using. The main reasons I'm using this at the moment rather than going full mirrorless is because I absolutely love this camera. This camera is a sort of dream to try and get hold of when I was getting into photography and I was still using the 7D, and sometimes I do have to pinch myself that I actually do have this camera and I am using it. Super fast, full frame, great image quality, and then paired with the 500mm f4, the photos you can get even in low light, because the amount of light that big bit of glass gives you is absolutely ridiculous, and it is super nice to use. It is obviously very heavy. This setup is 6.9 kilos for the body and lens, and then a lot of that pressure is taken off by using the Manfrotto. This is the Pro 500 version, so it is more of a video monopod, but no issues at all using this as a camera. As you can see here, I've got the Wembley adapter on there. Once it's balanced, you got nice free motion up and down, and then you got your left and right. And then if you want to go portrait, flick it over, and then you're kind of there ready to go. So yeah, this is the setup I use. Why I haven't gone mirrorless yet is because I generally prefer the weight and feel of this camera compared to what the mirrorless is. I do now have an R6, so I will be testing that out on this setup too with a battery grip, and seeing what photos I can get from that setup as well, and comparing it to this camera here. But let's go have a look at some of the photos that I've taken with this setup over the past 3 months since I got this camera, and then we'll go for a bit more of an overview after that. Okay, so the first photo is of the baby rhino Dara at Colchester Zoo, a couple of weeks old. Out in the field's funny, but as you see here, it's nice high shutter speed. Lighting's a little harsh, but it was super early in the morning. But frozen motion, all the spray up from her legs, super sharp photo, nice and sharp where you need it, f4, and say frozen motion, and just looks very sharp indeed, which is what we want. Next photo is one of the young tigers here in a portrait sort of fashion. I didn't have time to switch over back to landscape, which would look a bit nicer with the feet there, but focus point right in the eyes. Luckily the keeper was stood behind me, which is why she's looking directly kind of at me. She's obviously looking a little bit to the left of me, because I think the keeper stood a little bit to the left, but eyes nice and sharp. This is why I love this combination, just how sharp the photo is, and because it's f4 you're not completely blowing out the nose or like losing focus on the nose. That's still nicely in focus, the ears are nicely in focus, but then past that point we're out of focus, which looks quite nice. Then we got baby lion here. This is actually quite a lucky shot, because I was shooting through wire at an angle and he just happened to turn and look at me as he was walking towards his house. But again, managed to get the focus on the eyes. Being at f4, again you've got that nose in focus, but the photo itself is nice and sharp. Mane's nicely in focus too, but then the background is separated nicely because of the f4. But this again, why I'm using this lens and camera combination is because you can get such sharp images, and you can guarantee you can get a nice sharp fast shutter speed and get these photos nice and sharp. Then finally, this is Crispin, the male leopard. This is something more to give you what you can do with low light, because this is actually in a very dark enclosure, even though it doesn't look it. Lucky we had a bit of light coming from the left hand side of the leopard here, but this is through his high walking platform and low walking platform, him stepping between the two, and you can see the photo's cut off a little bit because of that on the top and the bottom, but I managed just about to get the shutter speed just right so I could capture him looking through as he's stepping through. Again, just shows you even at low light and changing light conditions, coming from a bright environment into a low light environment, and we are still nice and sharp on the eyes, and no colour issues where I've seen some fringing before with the whiskers and other combinations I've used. Nothing here at all, everything's nicely coloured and how it should be. So that's some of the photos that I've taken with this setup here. I say there's a lot you can do with this even in low light. It's really good. The only letdown, this being the Mark 1 version, is the minimum focus distance. It's pretty damn far, 4.5 meters. So you have to be fairly far away, but it is a big old lens, so that is kind of expected. But it doesn't stop me from using this for good like portrait photos, as I've shown here, of animals when they're coming towards you. And say mixed with this Wimberley head and the monopod, don't really feel the weight. I sling it over my shoulder when I'm walking around with it, and then have it on the Wembley mount itself to go through and shoot with. And I say it's not letting me down so far. I use this lens obviously when I'm doing all my reviews with the other Canon cameras like the 70 Mark II and the mirrorless stuff. I do tend to use this lens or the 300mm. The 300mm is even better at low light, but you lose that reach. And you put a ×2 converter on it, you lose even more light than what you do with this one here. So I do tend to make sure I've got this one with me when I'm out and about. So this is my current favourite setup. As I said at the start, I do have an R6 now, so I'll be doing some testing on the R6 as well with this setup and seeing how it compares to the 1DX Mark II. If you guys can let me know what your favourite setup is and what you're currently using, I always enjoy hearing that and reading that in the comment section. And let me know if you're using this setup or this body, what lens do you use with it, and what's your go-to lens for this setup here. So as always, please subscribe, comment and like. Check out my social media in the description below, and I will catch you guys for the next one. Cheers.